Hi. Welcome back to another video. This is the second part of the series I'm making on building a booking application with React.js, with Node, Express, and MongoDB. So let's hop right into it. In this part of the tutorial, or whatever it is, series, let's deal with the authentication side of things, where what we are going to do is to try to create an authentication for the administration part of the application, where the administrator can log in, create a room, and then view bookings, approve, and then delete the rooms. But in the previous, the last live video that I did, we set up our server, and then we created our modules for the booking model, room model. Then also we defined our route as well, and then we created some controllers here and all of that. Pretty much basic. So if you're watching this for the first time, I would advise that you go back to the previous series and then check up on that. Alright, so authentication. Alright, so what we will do is we'll create a model for the user. So let's say user model.js. So we bring in mongoose, and then we say user schema. Let's make this bigger. We say user schema equals to new mongoose dot schema, and we want the name should be a type of string. Should be required true. We also want the email type of string, and required, it should be required, and then password, and then also type of string required true, and then want to decide if he is the administrator, type boolean in it, and then our default, for now I'll make it true, and then we scroll down, and then we go to our timestamps. We want the timestamps to be true, so that would give us the created that and then updated that part. Alright, but then don't forget that we have to export this as well. So come down, do module.export equals to mongoose, then we create our model, which is user, and then we need a user schema. Easy breezy. Alright, so let's also then come down and then create a route. So new file, so user routes.js, then we bring in our express. First of all, let's destructure it and bring in the router and require it from express. Let's initialize our router to be our router, and then let's export it here. So let's say router dot get, we want to, let's just test to see if our route is working. So we then will send some message to the backend because it gets all users, to the front end, by saying that res.json, let's return it here. Alright, then res.json with a message of get all users here. Alright, so in our server folder, we will define our route to be app.use/API users. I want to use the user route. We will get that from let's say const user route equals to require. We need to go into our route folder, user route, and that's pretty much it. So we then need to bring this down by saying that if we hit this endpoint, which is app/users, we'd want to use the user route. Easy breezy. Easy breezy. Do we have any errors? No. Great. So into those, okay, so let's come down to request.rest file, and then let's deal with the simulations. So get users, so we want to do a get request, so http localhost 5000 API/users. We also need to create this, and then let's send the request. Yeah, get all users. Cool. All right, so let's close this. We don't need this. We don't need our model for now. All right, so in the route file, instead of having to define this, let us create a controller for the user. So inside our controller, we can do user controller.js. So const say get users, it should be an async function, request response, and then our next middleware, and then let's cut this from here and then paste it here. I try not to do cut and paste because sometimes it just makes things more difficult. Anyway, so we export the get user controller module.export equals to, let's say, get users. All right, so inside our route folder, our route file, instead of having to define this function, we'll bring in the get users from, and then automatically, VS Code automatically will import the get users for us from the controllers folder, and then the user controller, like that. So let's see if we have an error. No errors. All right, so let's send off the request again. It works. Coolly. All right, so let's create the user then. So let's define a function here. First of all, let's bring in the user model. So we say const user equals to require. We have to go up one level inside the require inside the models user model. All right, so then we can say const create user will be equals to an async function as the request response next. It's pretty much the same most of the time if you get a hang of it. All right, then we do our try catch here. Then we say const user equals to await user.create and what we want from request body. But should we do this? Okay, so if there is an error, we create the next with the error. All right, pretty much simple. So if there's no user, we would want to say res.status of 400, and then sorry, we will throw new error saying user not created. Other than that, we would want to return res.json status of 201 and then a JSON message of with the user. But the problem is that I'd want to hash the password as well. Hash the password before saving to database like that. So for that, let's first test if this will work. So back in our route, request arrest. Inside the control, actually, what we'll do is we'll have to export the create user function here, and then we export that here. So inside our route, we will then bring in the create user, and then we say this will be get all users, and then in here we will say create user, and then that will be a router.post / and then we want to use the create user. Pretty much simple. So inside the request.rest file, let's try and simulate a post request to our endpoint. Say create user. So we want to simulate a post request, a post request to HTTP localhost 1.5000 API users. Let's sign up to see what we'll get without the data. Cool. Message validation failed, password path, all of those things. We need all of our fields. Okay, so we want the content type of application JSON, and then with our content we want the name, to be, let's use my name, and the email will be, that's not my actual email anyway, feel free to send a message, and then we want the password to be password, like that. Let's save off, send off. Okay, done, created. So we have the name, email, the password, and then it's admin. By default is true, and then we have the ID here. But there's two things I would want to change here. One is you realize that the password is in plain like they are not encrypted here. So what I'd want to do is, instead of having to store the plain password, I'd want to encrypt the password. What's that? I'd want to encrypt the password instead of having to store the plain password. So what we'll need is we'll need to install bcrypt.js. So inside the we don't need the route for now. Inside the controller, we can say that we bring in the bcrypt, require bcrypt. Don't forget to bring the JS, but we can just define it as bcrypt here. So we bring in bcrypt.js, and then before we save our password, let us bring the structure and bring out the password, and then we bring from the requester body here. So like that, right? So before we do all of that, then we can say that we then generate salt. Say here, right, salt. So we say const salt goes to away bcrypt.gen salt. I want it to be in 10 rounds, and then hashed password should be await bcrypt dot hash. We want the password, and then we add the salt to it. So inside the creation of the user, I'd want to spread what is in the rest, and then password will be hashed password, like that. So let's go over it. So we bring in bcrypt here, which will give us some random characters that will use it to hash the password from bcrypt. And then before we create the user, we would want to hash the password here. All right, let's see if that works. So instead of creating, let's create another user, and you already know who I'll create. Let's say LeBron James, and then let's do lebron@gmail.com, and then let's send off the request. There's a problem. Oh, we've not started off our server. npm run server. Right, that should start off our server for us. Let's send off the request again. Cool. So when we check the password, we do not have the plain password like we had previously. So we have random characters here. Cool. This is a way of trying to protect the server from a situation where there's a server hack and the user too as well. All right. So we've created a user, but then again, let's go back to the creation of the user, because we are sending back the data to the front end. But what I don't want is to send back the password as well, because if you should send off the password, anyone who is able to get access to the client cookies or whatever, they'll be able to retrieve the password from the data we send back to the client. So what we can do then is we can say const want the password, and then we want the rest from the user dot underscore from the user actually dot underscore doc. What's the problem? Alright, so it says has already been defined, but we rename it as user password, like that. That takes care of. And then we can say this one under details. Sorry. So other details, like that. So what then we will send back to the front end is the other details, like that. So we take out we destructure it, and then we take out the password, then we send off the other details to the front end. Let's see if that works. So let's create another user. Let's use James Harden, and then I'd want to use let's say Harden at gmail.com with the password, and then let's send off the request like that. Okay, so we see that in this situation we only get the name, email is admin, and just the ID, and then we skip out on the password. So there is no password. There's no password in this situation. So yo, big man, what are you saying? Yeah. Can I call you back?
Oh, sorry, I'm busy.
Yeah, big man.
I don't know, I'll call you back.
All right. So with the email and then the name and all of that. All right. So now that we've created the user, let's move on and create the login part of it. So we say once login user will be an async function with the request response next, and then we will need the email and then the password from the user, like that. But then let us put it in a try catch block, where we'll do try catch, and then let's paste it here, and then we then call off the next. Call off the next with the error. Alright, so in here, what we can then do is to check. Let's comment this and check. Say get user from database. So we then will do await user dot find one with the email, like that. And then what we then can say is that if there's no user, we want the status to be 400, and then we throw new error by saying user not found. Other than that, we compare the password. So let's say it's correct. We await bcrypt.compare with the password and then user.password. We are doing this because the password that we have in the database is not the same as the one that we have coming in from which is the plain text password that the user has submitted. So that this password, this side of the password, is coming in from the request body here. So when we grab the user from the database with the email, the password that we'll get is the encrypted password. So hence we would have to use bcrypt to compare the password like this. So that will return us either truth or false. So you say if not is correct, what we say, we do rest of status of 400 actually, sorry, which is a bad request, and then we throw new error and let's say incorrect password. But we will change this at some point because we do not want hackers to know at which point of the code that they are. But so we probably might want to send a generic error message by saying still user not found or something went wrong somewhere like that. But if that has been done, what I want to do is to first of all generate a token and then set the generate token, set the cookie. But for now, what I want to do is to just return the user. Let's set the status. Right, let's set the status first. Where's the status of 200 and then the JSON with the user. We might as well take out the password, but for now let's just send off the password and then we fix that later. So let's save it and then come in here and export the login function here, and then inside our route we'll define our route to be a router.post to the login endpoint. We want to use the login user, and that will be imported from here. All right, cool. Let's save that and then come to our REST file, and then inside our REST file let's simulate login. So login user, we want to do a post request to HTTP local 5000 API its users login, and then the content type will be application /JSON, and then the data that we would want is the email. Let's use and then the password will be our password here. So let's send off the request to see if that would work. Incorrect password. Why is that? Let's try to see if, let's see. percent of that. See, that works. All right, cool. All right, the reason why that didn't work is because that was in a plain password. Having to compare it will probably would not work. Okay, so this one works. Let's use James Harden. Let's send off the, and that works. All right, so we realize that it still sends us back the password here, but we'd want to take that out from the data that we send back to the client. So in here, what we can then do is we can say, first of all, let's generate the token first, and then we'll handle the data that we'll send back to the client. So what we will need is, we need JSON Web. We'll be using JSON Web token. I'm sure there's pretty much a lot of tutorial on JSON Web token like that. So you can check that out, and then you come back, and then continue. All right, so we need a JWT, but before that, let us try and then restart, and then inside the .env file, let's provide our JWT secret here, and then we say JWT underscore secret. Normally I'll generate random text to use for our JWT secret, but let's just use ABC 1 2 3 4 5 ABC 1 2 3, something like that. So let us restart our server again and say npm run server, npm run server, can type in here. All right, so back inside our controller, we then would want to generate the token, which is somewhere, where is it? Yeah, here. So what we'll say is token equals to JWT dot sign with the we want the ID to be user dot underscore ID. That is the payload that we would want to get after we sign it with the JWT, and then we want to get the secret from the environment. Yeah, so for our token will be JWT with the payload of this, and then the secret that we'll need is the JWT secret that we provided here, which is this. All right, so for that, let us try to see the token in the console. So let's see if that token works. So let's try login again. All right, what's the problem? Where do we have? Oh, we've not started off our server. Okay, so let's send to see. Okay, so this is the token that has been generated here. All right, so from there, what I'd want to do is to set the cookie so that that will be set in the user's browser. So anytime the user will make a request to the server, the cookie will be checked to see if, with the token, to check to see if it is a valid cookie before it will be processed. What do I mean by that? So let's check our package.json. If I installed we'll need a cookie parser for that. So inside here are dependencies. We don't have that, so let's clear and the npm install cookie parser here, like that. All right, let's clear the console and not forget to run our server again before we run into another error. So back in the server file, how will we use the cookie parser is we will have to use that as a middleware. So it's really simple to use. So then we'll say const key parser, because we will require the cookie parser like that. So in here, somewhere around here, then we'll say app.use cookie parser, like that. It's pretty simple. Do you have any errors? No errors. All right. So let's go back to the login function again. So then we can say res.cookie, cookie, which is JWT, would want to use the token, like that. Simple. And then from there we will then destructure and let's use the rest from the user dot underscore dot, like that. Cool. So what then I'd want to send is I'd want to send what's in the rest, and then I want to send off the token. I just want to send back the token to see what we will get, but then I'll take this one off after. So let's go back to the rest file, send off our request again, and yeah, so we have our token here, we have our name, email, whether it's an admin, created at, updated at. So we don't have the password, but I do not want to send off the token, since we would be using a middleware to verify when the user makes a request. So pretty much simple like that. So let's go over the code once again. So with the login function, we define our try catch, and first we get the email and then the password from the request.body. But before I'll do that, probably I'd want to check. Let's do use joy to validate data. We'll do the validation later at some point, where we probably can say joy const users user schema to be joy.object, like that, and we define our schema, but we'll not be doing that now. That will complicate things. So let us assume that the data that we are getting from the user is correct. So we get the email and then the password from the request.body, and then from there we'll check to see if we can get the user from the database. If we do find the user, if we do not find the user, we want to have a bad request to set the status of 400, and then I throw a new error of a new user not found. And then we then have to compare our password. So we await bcrypt compare with the password that we get from the front end, and then the user password that we get from the database. So if it is not correct, let's say in a situation where let's give it a wrong password in it. So we come down here and then let's say XXSSS like that and send off the password. What we get is incorrect password. Pretty simple. All right, so back in the controller. So if we do not have the right password, which is we are using bcrypt to compare the password, we would want to throw an error and say incorrect password. Then from there we generate the token, which is this with JWT. We sign it with the ID of the user, or with the user's ID, and then we use the JWT secret to encrypt the payload like that. And then we have the token, then we set the cookie as JWT, and then from there we then decide on which data we'd want to send back to the user. So we do not want to send back the password. We'd want to take out the password for security reasons, and then we send the rest of we destructure the rest. Maybe sometime I should do a video on destructuring. Right, we destructure the rest, and then we send off the rest back to the user. Pretty simple. All right, so in this situation, let us then try and then get all the users and then get a single user. Okay, so for that, let's do try. Let's do a try catch function, and we say const user equals to const users await user dot find. We are sending back all the users. Then if not users, which might probably be unlikely, let's say where is the status of 400 and throw new error with the users not found. Other than that, we will return where is the status of 200. You might probably would want to skip the setting of the status because Express mostly sets the status for us automatically, but for practical reasons, let us set the status ourselves. So we send back the users. Other than that, we want to call the next middleware with our error like that. So let's come back here, and then where we are supposed to get users, let's send off the request, and then that gets us that list of all the users that we'd want. All right, pretty much simple. Okay, and then another thing that I would want to also do is, in situations that I'd want to protect the route, like let's say with regards to creating of the room and then updating and deleting of the room, what I'd want is for only the administrator to be able to create and then delete the room. So I'd want to create a middleware. I want to create a middleware for that. So in that situation, I will come back in here. Let me respond to some of the messages I'm receiving in the chat. All right, so what I'll do is come back to our middleware here and then create a new file and say auth.js. So that will handle issues with regards to authentication. So we'll say const auth, let's redo it, auth middleware. Let's rename it to auth middleware, like that. Alright, so we will say auth will be an async function. We need a request response and then next, like that. So for now let's export the auth function. So let's define an endpoint where when we hit, we'll have to check the whether the user is authenticated and verify if we have a valid token from there. Since in the user controller down here, since in the user controller down here we are setting the cookie with the token. We don't need this. So inside our server file, let's just try and define an endpoint. Let's say app.use, let's just say auth. We want to use the auth middleware. Where is it? We'd want to use the auth file from the auth middleware. So VS Code will automatically import that from the middleware here. Alright, so back in here, let's save that, and then down here we say auth. So inside our request.rest file, we don't need a user route. Inside the request file, let's come down here and simulate another request. So we'll say check auth, like that. So it's an let's do a get request, and then let's go to HTTP localhost port 5000 and then just hit the auth endpoint. But then I did not return anything in here, so let's return res.json message authenticate user. Alright, so back in the REST file, let's send off the request to see if we will hit the endpoint. Yeah, we hit the endpoint authenticate user. Alright, so what then do we want to check? What we will check is that let's have a try catch. Try catch here, and then we will say our token is equals to the request.cookies.jwt, and then we say if we don't have a token, what I want to return with a message of first of all, let us set the status of 400 with the message of not authorized. So if we have the token, then we'll have to verify the token. So we say that with the data we'll need our JWT to verify the token like that. So we can say JWT.verify our token, and then we need to bring in our JWT secret from the .env file. All right. So all right. If there is an error, we want to console.the error dot message, and then from there we want to return res.status of 400 with the JSON with the message, let's say no token, like that. So we verify the token that we get from our cookies that we set when we were logging in, and that will be the JWT with a name. If we check the name we gave, it's a JWT. So inside the middleware we get the JWT for our token, like that. And then we try to decode the JWT with the secret, like that. Let's try and clean up a bit. Cool. All right. So for now, what I'd want to do is to just return. Just want to return the data to see what we'll get, like that. So first of all, we would have to log in first to see if that will work. Okay, we've done incorrect password. So let's send up the password again, the details again. Yeah, that does that. And then let's scroll down and send it to the auth path to see what we get. All right, so that has decoded the data for us, and this is the ID of the user that we encrypted the ID of the user that we encrypted when we created our cookie, something like that. Okay, so back in the so before we can back in here, what we can then say is that if there is data in here, we would want to check if there is we want to just fetch the user from the database and then add that to the request.user. So what I would do is to bring in the user here, say const user from, we'll bring in the user model. We want to go into the models, and then we want the user model, like that. So we want to find the user with the ID that we got from the data. So we can say await user dot find one with the data of the ID. All right, so if not user, all we want to do is to return where's the status of 400 and JSON, and we say with a message of invalid user, or let's say invalid user, yeah. And then if there is the user, would I just return, and then let's return the user, like that. So this will not be the final code. What I'll do is I'll set that to the request the user, and then we can use that to verify to get and then do all the protection of our route. So let's undo request. No token found. Okay. Find one must be an object. Oh. Let's not find one. So find by ID. Sorry. Let's find it by the ID. Find by ID with the data.id like that. Sorry. So let's go back again. Send off our request. Send off our request. Yeah, and then that gets us the name of the user that we logged in, which is James Harden here. So if we do find the, where is it? Okay, so if we do find the user, what I'd want to do is to set the request user to be the user, and then we move to the next middleware like that. Yeah. So let's go over the code again and say that with the auth middleware, it's an async function with the request response and then the next parameters. And then we'd want to get the token from the cookies which we set when we logged in. Then if there is no token, what we would want to do is to return and say we want a status of 400 and then a JSON with a message, sorry, that was of not authorized. It's a 401, yeah. With status of 401 and then a JSON message of not authorized. And then from there, we then would want to verify the token. And then we say that we'll get the token, which is from here. And then we will need the secret from our .env file to verify our data. All right, so in the user, then we'd want to also find from there, we'd want to find the user. And then if there's no user, we'd say invalid user or something. But usually what I would also want to do is to not let hackers know which parts of the code that they've reached. So I'll still give a generic message of not authorized. All right, so from there we set the requested user to be the user, and then we'll move to the next middleware. All right, so how then do we use this auth middleware? All right, so when we check some of our routes, they should be protected because they should only be accessed by people who are authorized to do that. And the example will be when we come to the rooms. Let's come to the room route. When you come to the room route, all right, we realize that when we want to, we can get all the rooms. We do not need to have an authorization to get a room. But when it comes to the creation of the room, we will need to be authorized to create the room. And then we don't need when we are getting a single room, but when it comes to updating of the room, we'll need authorization. We'll need authorization for the delete, and then basically here. So what we can then do is to bring in the auth middleware, which we just created. We need to come up one. need to come into the middleware, and then we need our auth middleware like that, basically. All right. So from there, then it's have to use it like this. So we need to hit this auth middleware before we can create the room. Single middleware. So let's simulate a situation where we are trying to create the room. Let's simulate a situation where we, first of all, let us also create a function where we then will have to log out as well. Then we come back to that. So we say const logout user will be an we don't really necessarily does not need to be an async function, but let's do an sync request response next. So what we will do is say res.cookie we would want to say JWT, we want it to be empty, and then our cookie JWT will be cookie, and then we say expires in, let's give it a really short time like that, -1. And then this will remove res.cookie JWT, which is the name of the cookie that we set when we logged in. We set it to an empty string, and then we say it expires in -1. So that will be in the past. So before this get to the user, our cookie has expired. All right. So then we want to return and say res.json with a message you have been logged out. So log out. Let's copy this. Oh, we wrote it in the wrong controller. So let's save it. So that will be in the user controller. Sorry. So that will be here. Let's paste it, and then let's export the logout user like that. And then inside our route, what I want to do is to this one will log in user, and then this one will log out user. So when we do router get request to log out, we want to use a logout user function like that. Cool. Let's save it. So inside the request.rest file, let's create something for the logout user, which will be HTTP localhost port 5000 API users logout like that. Alright, let's send out the request to see what we get. You have been logged out. Alright, cool. So if we should try to hit this endpoint again, we say you see a message of no token. Then when we try to log in again with that, we should get the ID And then when we try to hit the endpoint of the authorization, that gives us, oh, where is it? Which one did we send? Wait. Localhost 4000. Right. Did I delete the? Nice. Where is it? Where's the server file? Server.js. Yeah. I'll use JWT. Where's JWT localhost 5000 off. Alright. That has locked us out. Yeah, we hit it as well. Why is it that when we log in? Let's log in again. And then let's hit this endpoint. Why can't we hit the endpoint? Oh, right. So that is coming up because basically inside the auth middleware, we are trying to move to the next. We're trying to move to the next middleware, but if we are to return, if we are to return a JSON of the user, and then send off the request again. Right. That'll give us the user. So go copy. So in here, what we are trying to do is to get to the next middleware, which is whatever middleware that comes after that. All right. So where were we? Yeah. So first of all, let us try to log in again. Let's log out first. So, and then let us try and then log in again. That works. Okay, so if we try to, let's see if we can simulate another. We don't need this. If we try to, where's the route? Room routes, okay. So if we try to create a room, where is it? We need to be authorized first before we can create a room. So back in the, we don't need a user controller. Do we have an error in here? Why is it showing red? 'Cause. 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 ' So if we come here and then we try to create a room, we need to be authorized first before we can create a room. So in here, let's check the endpoint for creating a room. This is the bookings. We get a single booking. This is updating. This is the, let's say, what is this? Okay, this is the create room. Like that. So if we should send off the request to create the room, that should be done. But then again, if we are to log out, what is it? If we are to log out and then trying to create the room again, what is it? Yeah, that shouldn't work because we do not have a token, basically. So inside room routes, we will need authorization for when the user will create the room. We also will need authorization when the user wants to update, and then the authorization when there's a delete as well. Okay, and then from there, I think we'll also need same thing for the bookings. Get bookings, we will need authorization for that. So let's import the auth. That will be in the middleware, and then that will be in the auth middleware. So we will need this for when we are getting all the bookings, because that person needs to be an administrator. And then when we want to get a single booking, we'll still need the authorization. And then when we'd want to create a booking, that'll be the user trying to book the apartment or the hotel, so we do not need authorization. But when it comes to update, we'll need that. And then when it comes to the delete, we'll need that, basically. And then I think we'd also need that for the user. Let's check the user routes. Pretty much, yeah, we only need that to get all the users from our backend. So once we need the auth, we need that from the middleware, auth middleware. And when you are trying to get all the users, you have to be authorized first. You don't need authorization to create a user. You don't need to for the login, and then the logout we don't need it. What's the problem? Our application crashed. What is it? What is it that you're talking about? have a bug in the code. I don't know where that is coming from. Wait, let's. Oh. Sometimes I hate typos, innit? So this is part of the reason why usually sometimes I like to do live development, where you see exactly it's kind of problems that we face as developers, so that you know that everything is not as straightforward as some of the tutorials that you find online. So another important skill is of a developer is how you are able to debug your code. So I'd want to show this aspect too as well. I cannot find middleware auth. So also application changes or something. Where's the middleware? Yes, middleware. Yeah. Cooking. let's go with that. Stick on the auth middleware for all. Oh, come on. Okay, cool. Okay, so you're not crashing now. So we say material power from, let's come up middleware auth middleware like that, and then we have auth in here. We crash. Okay, so if you're not crashing, then what the hell? Okay, so create rooms and the auth like that. I say update room. We want the auth. I say crashing. Now delete room auth. Alright, crashing. No. Okay, cool. So let's close it. Let's come to the booking. So we say one the middleware, then one the auth middleware. Say, are you crashing? No. So what we need is get all bookings we want to be authorized first, and then if we are creating a room, we want to be authorized first. Updating the booking, we want to be authorized first, and then when we are deleting a room, we want to be authorized first. Cool. But then if we are getting all the bookings authorized, okay, cool. And then with the user, basically we do not need authorization for most of the stuff. The logout, login, creating, yeah. But when we are getting all the users, we'd want to be authorized first. So you say equals to want to require it from middleware auth middleware. Yeah, so we're getting all the users and we need some authorization here. Cool. Alright, so basically that'll be it for the authentication side of things. So In the next, let's commit this to commit this to GitHub. Status, want to get add commit sm update added login functionality, and then let's push it to GitHub. Pretty much simple. Cool. All right. Let's check GitHub first to see if everything is working. So let's go to github.com. Let's come to our repositories. Come in here, should be this. And then I'd want to take out the get ignore like that. I want to take out the nuts.txt. Let's refresh that to see if it's changed. Yeah, I think it changed. Anyway, let's check to see if we have a code here. All right, everything is here as expected. Cool. All right, so that'll be it for the backend side of things. So in the next live, we'll hop into the front end side of things, where we'll use React. We'll use React Redux to create our front end, and then try and then develop our front end side of things. All right, so that'll be it for today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to always keep pushing. All right.